So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this online training session where we will be focusing on all those tips and tricks on how you can work smarter and be more productive with Microsoft Teams. And I will be focusing on all those kind of tips and tricks that everyone should know about when using Microsoft Teams to collaborate, but probably doesn't know. And so I hope that you had at least one cup of coffee and that you are concentrated. And let's start this. And this is a 45-minute session, just to mention as well. And first off, for those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Gustav Molnar, and I'm an expert in Microsoft 365 with all those productivity tools such as Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Planner, etc. And since the last 10 years, I've been helping organizations with those kind of transformation journeys with the digital workplace. But one thing to say about myself is that I'm really passionate about behavioral science and understanding what it takes to change behaviors when working together with coworkers. Because what we see is, despite all the potentials with the new workplace technology, such as Microsoft 365, despite that, most organizations today are stuck in quite traditional ways of working, and that is being depending on a lot of email and file servers. And well, it used to be also a lot of physical meetings, but something that's been happening the last couple of months is, of course, that the physical meetings have been reduced, and we have a lot of online meetings instead. That's enough about me. I just want to give a short intro. I will not talk that much about what is Microsoft Teams. However, I will put like a couple of minutes just on the basics so that everyone is on the same level before we go into all the tips and tricks. But something that is worth mentioning is Teams is it's really taking off now. It's been exploding in the number of daily active users. Just a couple of months ago, it was like 12 million, and now it's 75 million daily active users, and it just keeps on boosting. And when you look at Microsoft Teams, on a first glance, you can think that, okay, this is just something that replaces Skype, or this is just another tool in that big toolbox of Office 365. But that's not actually the truth. The thing about Microsoft Teams is that it could be seen as the one tool that actually combines all your other tools, that makes it easy for you to talk more about the capabilities of working together rather than talking about all the tools and systems, because you go to Microsoft Teams to share files, to manage tasks, to have team calendars, or to access your other online solutions. So you can really make this a one-point hub for collaboration if you are smart and explore it. And the result of this, if you actually transform from working with the traditional tools into working with Microsoft Teams, is quite good. There's a lot of studies being done at the moment to see the effects of moving from the traditional email, Skype, file servers, etc., to start using Teams together. And what you would benefit is, of course, a lot of time savings. I also believe that the kind of digital workplace environment will be a lot better as well. I will not dig that much into this now. I just wanted to say that using Microsoft Teams, well, the real reasons behind it is not the tool itself. It's actually the effects and the benefits that your organization can have from it. But just to make a very simple metaphor about Microsoft Teams, so that everyone is on the same page, because what is a team in Microsoft Teams? You could actually say that a team is like a house, and then you decide which people will come into this house. And inside your house, you will have different kind of rooms. And this is what we talk about when we talk about channels. And the channels can be, of course, around different subjects or different areas, or the things that you need to get order in your house or in your team. And you can also decide that, there are some rooms where we keep a lock on, and then those are the kind of private channels where you can say that only these two people will have access to this channel, because in here we are we're storing sensitive information or agreements or something else about the team that everyone, for some reason, shouldn't be able to see. But okay, this is the basics. But then you have inside your room, you have different kind of furnishings, and this is what we talk about when we start to connecting things like tabs or other systems, or when you start to modify the file structures to make it easy to search and find. So this is a quite just funny overview to look at what is Microsoft Teams. And to make it a bit more structured, you could look at Microsoft Teams also this way, that you can have several different teams. You could have a team for your department or your whole company. You could have it for a project with a clear start and ending. You can have collaboration groups, and you can have a team for processes, etc. But what I want to say just right away is that I'm sure that some of you have experienced that when you launch too many teams without a clear governance or a clear steering model, you will experience a little bit of high chaparral, that it's a lot of teams to keep in track, and there's a lot of channels to jump in between. And that is something that you need, well, you should have a look at, so that you don't just run away and create teams without a purpose. The one lesson there is less is more. So that's what I want to say. And I will now jump into a live demo session to look at Microsoft Teams. We will look both from the desktop version, but I will also demonstrate some of the things that you can do using the mobile app. And this is just something to mention. If you haven't downloaded the Microsoft mobile app from your app store, please do that, because that's a real lifesaver. It's a really good thing to have, and it makes you it makes you a bit more productive while using Teams with your coworkers as well. Okay, so now we are live in Microsoft Teams, and I'm just standing inside one of my teams that is called AdTech Demo. And one thing to mention is, of course, when you see the structure of how is actually Microsoft Teams working, well, the basic is that you have teams, you have channels. When you start a new team, all that you get is that general channel, but then you can, of course, add more channels depending on your behavior or your need, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing that's worth mentioning is the tabs that you have here, that you can add more tabs, and by default, of course, you get the conversations in posts, you get the file storage, which is actually stored in SharePoint, and you get this wiki. And well, it could be the case that you also want to delete that wiki. You could do that basically by just saying remove, and then you don't have it. But for some reason, you may want to use the wiki to describe the kind of purpose of the channel or something. Then you can use that. But from my experience, wiki is not the most important player when using in Microsoft Teams, but it could be from your side. And before we get started, I also want to say that there's a lot of things that you can do in Microsoft Teams, and I will go through like 20 different tips and tricks that makes you work a little bit smarter. But one thing to actually, the first tip I want to share with you is all the shortcuts, because there's a lot of quick shortcuts that you can use to make your experience a bit more smooth. And there is a short command that I first of all just want to demonstrate for you, that it looks like this. If you use control period, you will get up a short list of all the kind of shortcuts that you can use, and then you might find something that's suitable for you. I want to show you now how this is done. So it's control and period. Those are the two that you want to push. So I'm doing that, and all of a sudden you see, bam, you get these keyboard shortcuts. And then you can just see all the things that you can do to get quick access to the things that you do most or need quick access to. So that's something to just explore. Of course, I will not go through all those shortcuts, because then it would be 45 minutes of shortcuts. So I just want to say that's one thing that's actually possible of doing. But once you are in a team and collaborating, it's important to understand that this is just not something that replaces Skype, of course. This is something else, because this is where you can share files and where you can add different tabs depending on your need for a specific team or a specific channel. And adding tabs is something that you can do up here. And Microsoft also highlighted a few of the tabs down here. And it's actually not a coincidence that they're highlighting Planner, OneNote, and Websites, because those are basically the three most valuable players if you're looking at tabs for most of the teams. But if you want to add a tab, you will see that you have a huge variety of different choices. And you don't have to keep up with what is all of those. There's a lot of things you can do, and it actually will come even more apps in the future. But worth keeping track on is the planner, which is quite good if you want to manage tasks. The website is super good if you want to add, say, for example, a external website or some kind of tool that uses a URL. That could be your CRM tool, it could be a sales tool, or it could be whatever is out there, because then you can just add that as a tab and get direct access to a specific website without leaving the Microsoft Teams experience. So that's just something worth mentioning about tabs. Another thing to just keep in track is if you're working in a team and you use specific third-party solutions, just have a search here to see, is there a tab for that solution that we should add into our team? Another thing that it's important to understand is what is actually a channel. If you compare that to the traditional ways of working, where we used to have the file servers, the email, etc. And the thing is that if you go into a channel like governance here, you see that you have files. If you click on files, I have some demo documents here. But something that you should be aware of is that you can synchronize your channels by hitting sync. And what happens then is that from your Explorer view, you will get an access that looks like this. And this is just worth to emphasize that the channels in Microsoft Teams, they are displayed as folders in your Explorer view if you synchronize them. So if you look at those, you have the general, you have the coffee machine, you have governance, and if I click on governance, I get access to exactly the same documents which I have in Teams. And this is a good way to actually get access to all your necessary channel documents or Teams documents when you also are offline, because then you can access those here. And if you do, if you change something in your Explorer, of course, it's synchronized, so it's directly changed also in the Microsoft Teams experience. And a lot of people ask me, okay, should we then, when we set up a new team, say for our department, and we used to have all our files in a folder structure, should we then just add all the channels based on those folder structures? And the quick answer of those, this is, you could do that, but I don't recommend it. I recommend looking at the channels, not only as folders. Look at them from, okay, do we have a need for more discussions here? Or is there a specific subject that we need to have some more content around? Because then you can use it as a channel. Otherwise, you can just go into, say, the general and the files, and then you can add your different folders right here, because this is where you can add, say, folders and documents, etc. But the key takeaway here is to start to understand that yesterday you were using folders on a folder server. Today you're using channels in Teams, but please be advised to don't have too many channels. Less is more, and if there's a channel, there should be some conversation or subjects around that channel. And something that you might be noticing while looking in my environment here is that there is something called the coffee machine. And the coffee machine is something that I want to give as a little tip and trick, because many organizations for the last couple of months have been, well, they've been saying that it's quite hard to keep up and connect with your coworkers when everybody's working from home. And we missed that little chat that we had around the coffee machine. And this has been a huge wave of companies adding like the same in the digital or virtual world. So my tip here is, if you don't have a channel for your coffee machine, you should have one for your organization. And this means that whenever you decide that when you feel a bit lonely and you want to have a coffee break, what you can do then is just go into the coffee machine and you can start a quick meeting, a meet now, and say it's time for coffee. And what happens then is that, well, all of your coworkers will see a little message that there's something going on in the coffee machine. It's a coffee break. And well, if you have the timing of being able to take a little break, just step into that and you can connect with your coworkers and talk about private stuffs and share ideas, which often happens around the coffee machine. So don't underestimate to have a virtual coffee machine. And if you see, now many of you may not be speaking Swedish, so I want to share with you another tip. If you don't speak Swedish, but you see that, oh, someone wrote in a language which I don't understand, om man äter upp en Ben & Jerry, blir den tom och gärrig då. What you can do here is that you can translate this directly into English or the language that you have prepared for your team's environment. So if I click on the 3 dots here, let's do that again. Let's click on the 3 dots. You see you have something called translate. I hit that and suddenly, boom, if you eat a Ben & Jerry, what about Tom and Jerry? So it translates just directly. You can translate back to the original just by seeing the original message. So that's something that you should be aware of. That is the solution for this, and it's getting better. It's not super artificial intelligence yet, but it's quite good if you compare it to the translation solutions on the market. Another thing that you might see here is that I have these explaining or visual icons on my channels. And when you add a new channel, let's do that. Just say Lorem, and I will add that channel. Of course, I don't get a choice of adding an icon, but this is something that actually makes it easier to navigate and makes a bit more understanding of what to keep here. This is a coffee icon, and this is like a project icon. So it's something that you should think about. How can I make it more attractive or visible for my team? And how do I then add icons? The thing is this: when you add a new channel, you don't want to have an icon from the start, because when you synchronize a channel to your folder or to your Explorer, this view don't manage icons. So you will get like semicolon, dot, slash, 3, etc. You don't want that. But once you have created a new channel, then you can actually click on Edit Channel. So I want to edit this channel, and now there is a short command that I want to share with you. That is you can use this not only in Teams. You can use that when you actually are writing a document or writing an email and you want to add an icon. And if you want to add icons, this is the command or the shortcut. There's a Windows button and period. If you click on those, it doesn't matter in which Office 365 tool you're in, you will actually get the choice of adding icons. So if I just click here on the channel name and click on the Windows button and period, boom, there you go. Now I have a lot of different choices of icons to add into this. So let's make it a flying cat maybe, or the ninja cat. Let's do that one. And then I click on save. And now you see that the channel Lorem has a little ninja cat on it. So a small thing, but it makes the experience a lot better from my point of view. The next thing to step into is how you actually use these posts in a good way. And I think that you all learned how to use the at or the mention. And hopefully you also learned about the GIFs, because the GIF is, no matter what people say, this is something that actually boosts and make your collaboration a bit more funnier, and it's a good way to express what you're feeling. So I would say GIFs are so much better than this one, the memes. But I will not showcase these because I'm pretty sure it's quite easy for you to just click on it, and many of you, I'm sure you use those, and I just want to say continue to do that, because it connects your team a lot better around the feelings and things like that. But looking at other things that you can do, there we go, is of course that you can use the other options down here. And if you want to, well, I'm pretty sure in the physical office, when you have a coworker that does that little extra thing to help you with something, or that they are actually stepping in to make you progress, then you want to praise them. And the thing is that you have a little icon here that says praise, and this is also something that I want to encourage, that if you have a coworker that does something special, give them a praise. So if you click on this praise icon, you can select a badge and say that someone is awesome. And then I say that it's Sophia, and I want to add a personal note. And please, when you use praise, don't overuse them and write fussy explanations or notes. Be quite specific. What is it that this person did that was actually super cool or super productive? Lorem icon ipsum, I just write something there. And you could also choose to give praise to several different people. So let's do that and send. And now the whole team will see that I gave praise to Sophia and Niklas for some reason. Another thing that I want to showcase is also the rich format editing, because when you write something here, it's just quite simple. It's a quick little message, and your coworkers can reply directly here. But sometimes you might want to share something that is more of an announcement, and you want to highlight it as important, and you want to modify or edit your text a bit more. That is the first choice that you have in the conversation. So if you click on format here, you can see that this opens up. You can say this is not a conversation. This is rather an announcement. So I click on announcement, and then I get to choose a headline. And you can have subhead, you could have announcements in here, you could add a background picture or background image if you want to. You can choose to actually have different headings. You can do a lot of things like, well, adding in or inserting tables and things like this. And of course, this one is quite good as well. Mark is important, because could be you get this little red bar that says this is important, and everyone will see that something important has happened in this channel, in this team, and everyone will get a little announcement from that. You can also say, should everyone be able to reply, or maybe it's only me and the moderators that can reply. And sometimes maybe you want to post something in several teams or several channels, and then you can actually click here, and you can select a lot of different channels that you want to post in. So just click on ad tech demo. I want to in the general and in the coffee machine, but also in this team in the general in the coffee machine. So you can choose to do like multiple postings in different channels as well. Let me just discard that, so I don't disturb everyone with that one. And another thing that's worth mentioning is also sometimes you just want to ask your colleagues on their opinion or something. You want to make a quick little poll to see what they think about something. And that's another thing that you can do down here. You can actually click on something called forms. And if you can't see it in your little toolbar here, let's click on the 3 dots and you see forms. So I click on forms, and suddenly I can create my own little poll. And let's make a question here. Is Monday the greatest day? Yes. And you can say suggestions. Yes, let's do that. Yes, no, or maybe. So it's suggested for me that maybe you should use yes, no, or maybe. And let's say no, Tuesday is better. You could choose that your coworkers can actually have multiple answers and choose both yes or no, but in this case, I just have it like this. So next up, I send this. and voila, you should have a poll in your team where you can actually gather their votes. So if I want to submit a vote, yes, Monday is the greatest. Click on that, and you can see that Monday is leading by 100%. So that's a good little thing that you should be aware of. You can use your conversation or posts in a wide different areas of ways. And another thing that you should be aware of is that sometimes you have a chat, and the chat, well, it spins off a bit, and there's a lot of activity going on with a conversation, and you just want to, instead of schedule a meeting, you just want to, okay, but let's start a quick meeting around this this little discussion that we're having. So the quick meetings are a really good way to just skip all the long meetings, just have a quick meeting. And if you have a meet now or a quick meeting in a channel, what happens is that you will also be able to record that meeting, and then it automatically publishes in the channel so that everyone that has access to this can see it. So that's a good way to get rid of the bad meeting culture. And something else that we've been talking a little bit about is those traditional ways of working, and that is emailing. Emailing may have a place in your organization as a very formal or specific directed communication tool, but email is not a collaboration tool. However, sometimes you get information from email that you want to include into your teams, and sometimes things are happening inside of Teams that you want to export to an email or something. And what you actually can do is that you can go into a channel and click on those more options, the 3 little dots, and you can get an email address. And if you get that email address, you can just add that to forward any email that you want to, and then suddenly what happens is that if you go in here, you can see that here I forwarded 2 emails directly to the channel. And if there are attachments such as file and everything, they will also be included into the channel. And it also will be stored within files. So if you forward an email that has attachments, then you can go to the channel where you actually copy the email address, forward the email, you step into files, and then you can see that email messages here contains all the attachments that have been forwarded to the team. So here we have a report how to lead your virtual team on a daily basis. So that's something to really explore also if you have things that you want to forward, because don't start collaborating both with your team in email and in Teams and something else, because it gets quite fussy for everyone to keep up, to keep the track. Keep it on one place. If you have things coming externally into your email and you want to make sure that the team gets access to that, use this little quick thing that's called get email address. Another thing that you want to do is that maybe you have something sometimes that you feel like this we want to share with the other people that don't have access to the team for some reason. And then you can actually step into this position. If you click on the conversation, you can say share to Outlook. And I click on that, and what happens now is that an email is prepared with that conversation so that I can share it with whomever I want to share it with. And it will look like this. Well, you can get everything right away. And if you have access, of course, you can go to the team. But it's worth to understand. It's good to understand that you can do this both ways. You can actually import emails and you can export to an email. So just a quick summary there. If you want to import, you want to get the email address from the channel. And if you want to export something, you go to the conversation and you click on the more options, and then you share to Outlook. Let's see, let's take all those little tips here and go forward. Yes, another thing is that, of course, when you want to have a conversation with someone, and if you want them to make a response or be aware of it, you should use the @ and then you can get suggestions of your team members. So I use Niklas in this case. Hey, and now Niklas gets a little announcement that I'm searching him. So bam, that's it. You should use those @mentions, but don't overuse them. Only use them when you actually want to get a reply from someone. And I want to also separate, because you have those team channels, and that is for conversations that has something to do with that channel's subject. If you just want to have a chat with someone one-on-one or ad hoc, you should not use the team channels, because that's for the team purposes. You should just use the chat then. So go to the chat and have the conversation there. That's a bit better to structure it. But it could be that one of your teams has a lot of different members in it. You have managers and coworkers, and you could have like, let's say maximum is 250, but maybe you have, if you even have 12 people, it could be quite a lot. And then you want to like mention 5 or 6 of those people. And what you can do, of course, is you can use the command @adtech demo, and then everyone will be pinged and saying, okay, this is important for all of us. But maybe you want to create a little smaller group of people to mention. And what you can do then is you can actually go to the top here, AdTech demo, and use something called manage tags. And manage tags is basically where you can create your own kind of mention group. So say that in this team, there's a lot of different people, but sometime I want to mention only the managers. So I say managers, and then I add Sophia, and okay, let's see there. Sorry, Sophia. And I add myself. And that's strange, I got an unknown user there. That's not how it's supposed to look. Let's do like that. And then I create that. Whoop. And now we have a new tag. And you can create more tags, of course, but if we step back here now and I do mention and say managers, 2 people have this tag, then those 2 people will get pinged. So that's another tip, use the manage tags. Another thing that I just forgot to mention, of course, it's also kind of a command, but that is using this little search bar here up in the top. You can use that to search for people, or search for files, or search for any kind of content that you have within your teams. But what I want to share with you is the command that is Shift-7, or make a slash up there. So if you use Shift-7, you can directly get access to a lot of different actions. So say if I want to call somebody, you can hit Shift-7 and call, and then just write the person's name, and bam, you will get a call directly to them. You can say mentions, you can say change my status to busy or to available. You can do a lot of different things just by hitting Shift-7 up in your search bar. So that's something that's worth knowing as well. Yes. And if you manage a team and you want to get some insight of how is this team actually performing? Are the people in here active, or are they inactive? How many files do we have? You have something called Teams Analytics. And Teams Analytics is, if you go to the dots here, where you can hit your settings for a team, you can go to Manage Team. And in there, you see that you have something called Analytics. And if you're a team owner, you can click on Analytics, and all of a sudden you get this quite good experience of, okay, we have 19 users, and this is a summary of the last 7 days. You can see all the replies, how many apps do we have in this team, how many SharePoint files do we have, and you can see the activity of users. So it's a good way. And you can also switch this to say, but look at the last 90 days. Then we can see in this team that we had over 200 posts, 400 replies. So if you want to have some analytics for your teams, this is where you go, the Manage Team and Analytics. And for some reason, you might want to see the activities of a specific person. And I want to remind you, if you do this, of course, you will only see the activities that you have access to or authority to see. So if I go to my chat like this and say that we have Ivan here, and what you see is this is where you actually can chat. I can have a one-on-one chat with Ivan, and when we share files, well, we get access to those files here. We can see the organization, where are we in relation to each other, but then you have something called activity. And I'm pretty sure most of you haven't noticed that little choice, but if you click on activity, I can actually see all the activities that Ivan has been doing that I have access to. So I can see that he has been in the Devo Open team, and he wrote something there, and this was the date, and I can just click and go there. Okay, he promoted Dylan here, and he was in the coffee machine and said happy birthday to a coworker. I can click on that and go directly. So if you have something that, where did Ivan post that thing about? You can go to activity and you can get some insight from your coworker activities. Another thing that might also make your channels a bit more alive is to start looking at not only tabs, but also something called connections. I don't want to dig too deep into connections at the moment. It's not super difficult. It's just a bit time consuming to explain, because if you look at, say that in your in this Lorem channel, I want to get a connector. So if you click on the channel more option 3 dots here and go to connectors, you could actually automatically publish things from third-party solutions such as RSS feeds, or if you have if you use Trello, or if you use something else, you maybe want to get SharePoint or Internet news in here so that they're published right away. There's a lot of different things that you can add as connectors. If you're using Salesforce, you could add notifications from that. If you use Google Analytics for your website and you have a marketing team, you could get summary reports directly published into your channels. So if you have things around your team where you want to, okay, let's gather all the RSS from media when this tag is used, or let's gather analytics for our website, you could actually make them automatically being published into your team channels. So good. I hope there was a lot of good tips and tricks so far. I would now want to switch and share also some tips and tricks from how you can use your mobile app. And the first little demo that I want to share with you is something that we have been noticing from an HR perspective is quite challenging. And that is when everybody's working from home, which is quite common these days. It's quite hard to keep track on the private life versus working life, and also what is expected from an HR perspective. Am I supposed to reply during nighttime or during the weekends, or what's our policy around this? And many organizations, that they actually lack a good policy for when am I supposed to answer someone in my team if they write, because if you have the Teams app, you will get notifications, you will get pinged. If someone wrote mention, you will be disturbed, and whatever you're doing with your family or kids, you will get this little ping. And it's different from your mobile perspective and your laptop or computer perspective, because the laptop you can just close, you will not get pinged. But this you have in your pocket all the time. But something that is good, you could have discussions around this, of course, in organizations, but it's the quiet hour settings. And if you go into your mobile and you click on the Teams, because you downloaded that, you go up here where you find settings and things like that. You go to settings, you will see that you have something called quiet hours. And if I click on quiet hours, you can say that, well, daily quiet hours, I don't want to be disturbed after 6 p.m. or change that to what's suitable for you, or before 7. You could also have quiet days, and that is, if you switch that on, you can say that during Sundays and Saturdays, don't disturb me. And you could actually go in and also set some You could make that okay, but if your manager or if this person is trying to reach me, you could make it so that they can actually go through this little rule. But this is a good thing to understand, and maybe you should look at, because you still can go in and see the notification, but you won't get pinged if you use the quiet hours. And the second one, that is, I really like this. Maybe one of my favorite little tips and tricks when using the mobile app, and that is the smart usage of the camera. Because if you open up the Teams app and you go into one of your channels and you want to post something, maybe you want to take a picture, upload a document, or you want to take a photo of a whiteboard or something. If you choose the camera and it opens up, you can see that you can choose from video, you can choose photo, you can choose a document, and you choose a whiteboard or business card. And you see that it's trying to just grasp that little thing that I have there. I take the photo and bam, it's just perfectly and nice so that I can upload this into my channel. And there's another important thing that is worth mentioning here, and it is that photo was never saved on my camera roll. It was never saved on my camera. So from a security perspective, if you photograph sensitive information or upload a document or a whiteboard where you have been sharing your organizational secrets on a whiteboard, you take a photo, upload it to Teams. It never touches your mobile. It's never saved there. It saves directly into the secure Microsoft cloud. Another thing is, this is a super hype at the moment. I'm not too keen of it, but a lot of people are, and that is the dark theme. What you can do this on your mobile as well as you can do it on the desktop. But if you go up here and go to settings, you have something called the dark theme. And you have to close your app, and then you can open it up again. Voila, my friends, you have something called the dark theme. So that could be something that's also worth exploring if you like that dark theme. And if you want to use the dark theme on your desktop version, as you know, you can use the desktop, the mobile, or you can use the browser to access Teams. But then you go into the settings, and this is where you change to dark or high contrast or the default. And me personally, I do prefer to have the default settings, but that's up to you. There we go. Let's have a little look here. I'm going to do like this now. And we're going to start rounding this off a little bit. Let's see there. Let's click that away. And I do see that I have some announcements that has been made here, and someone is writing, is it possible to see this video after it's been aired? Yes, it is. We are actually taking a video recording of this, so you will be able to see this in advance as well. So that's a good question. Now, with that said, I want to say that there's a lot of things you can do with Microsoft Teams, but despite all the possibilities with new technology, what we realize is that the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas or using the new technology as in escaping from the old ones. So if you're still stuck in traditional emailing or the kind of file server swamps or the physical meeting places, beware to start thinking about what can we stop doing, and not only what do we start doing. That's just the last thing that I want to send to you. And if you want more, if you have more questions, if you need help, please do contact me or connect with me on LinkedIn. As I said, my name is Gustav Molnar, and I hope you found those tips and tricks to be worthful or useful in your organization. And we have 1 minute left. And I also want to say, if you have questions, there is a Q&A. You can write those questions there, and we'll be gathering them together and make sure that the answers to those questions are also published with the video that will be released later on. So from my side, I want to say thank you. It's been really funny to share with you my best tips and tricks in order to work smarter with Microsoft Teams. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.